Hey guys, in today's video we'll be learning about the major scale. Coming right up. Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Vernon and this is Sax Lessons, a channel that is designed to help you learn to play the saxophone and grow as a musician. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe below. So today we'll be talking about the major scale. The major scale is the foundation to playing music. It is also the gateway to learning other scales and modes, as well as chords and chord progressions. And most importantly, learning the major scale is the beginnings to playing music and actually sounding like music. Learning the major scale will make it easier to learn more advanced principles and theory as you progress. So let's learn the major scale today. Hey guys, so today we'll begin with the C major scale. I chose the C major scale as the example for today's lesson just because it's the most simple scale out of all the major scales. It doesn't have any sharps or flats. I will play the C major scale so you have an idea of what it sounds like. So one thing to point out about the C major scale, as well as all the other major scales, is that it is a diatonic scale, meaning that it is a 7-note scale made up of 5 whole tones and 2 semitones. So we see here the 7 notes that make up the C major scale. I've numbered each particular note based on the degree or the position that they have within the scale. So we have C as number 1, and it is the root or the tonic of the scale. Then we have D, number 2, E, number 3, F, number 4, G, number 5, A, number 6, B, number 7, and we return back to C, the root of the scale. I've numbered this C as 8 or 1 because even though we return to the root, this root is at a higher octave. Now let's take a look at the intervals between each of the degrees or each of the notes. As I mentioned before, the major scale has 5 whole tones or whole steps and 2 semitones or half steps. So let's go through each of the intervals within the C major scale. Here, as you can see between notes C and D, or degrees 1 and 2, we have a whole tone or a whole step. Between D and E, a whole step again. Between E and F, we have a semitone or a half step. Between F and G, a whole step. Between G and A, a whole step again. And another whole step between A and B. Between B and C, we have a half step or a semitone. So you can see here that between degrees 3 and 4 and 7 and 8, we have a semitone or a half step. This will be the same with all the major scales. It can be a little bit confusing to understand the idea of whole steps and half steps just by looking at this picture. So let's go ahead and take a look at a piano diagram to have a better idea visually speaking. So we see here a diagram of the piano keys, and I've listed out the C major scale on the keys of the piano. If you just play the white keys on the piano, you are essentially just playing the C major scale. One thing that I want to note about the piano and its keys are that one key on the piano equals 1 half step, and 2 keys on the piano equal 1 whole step. So with this information, we can count the keys between each degree of the major scale in order to find out the interval. So let's begin with C. Between C and D, we have 1, 2, 2 keys. Two keys on the piano means one whole tone or one whole step. Let's look at D and E. So from D to E, we have one, two keys. So that is a whole step. Let's look at the number of keys between E and F. 1. So there's only one semitone, or one half step. Remember, one key equals one half step on the piano. From F to G, we have one, two keys, so that's a whole step. From G to A, we have one, two keys, so that's a whole step. From A to B, we have one, two keys, so that's a whole step. And from B to C, we only have one key, so that is a half step. So hopefully this gives you a better understanding of whole steps and half steps. If you can, try playing other major scales on the piano so that you can visually see the intervals in between each note. Remember, all the major scales will have this pattern of whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Okay, so now that we know how the major scales are formed, let's figure out a way to practice these major scales efficiently. In my opinion, the best way to practice the major scale is through all the 12 keys. Practicing the major scale through all the 12 keys will help you develop your ear and help you recognize the major scale in any key. And it will also help you become more technically sound because we won't be always playing in C major. Sometimes we'll be playing in D flat major or F sharp major. So one exercise to help you practice the major scale in all the 12 keys is by first starting with any major scale. It can be C major, for example, playing the C major scale up one octave and then going back down, and then cycling to another major scale. You can cycle chromatically if you want, so you can go from C to D flat major to D and on and on. Or if you know the circle of fifths, you can cycle through the circle of fifths. So from C major to G to D to A and on and on. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate this exercise for you guys. Okay, so all I was doing was just playing the major scale and cycling through the circle of fifths. So I started with the C major scale. I played it up one octave and then I went back down. Then the next major scale I played was G major scale. I played it up one octave and then back down. And I continued this until I played the major scale through all the keys. So if you're just learning the major scales, I recommend that you practice with a metronome. Practicing with a metronome will help make sure that you play the notes evenly, and it will also help you develop your internal rhythm. Another thing that I suggest is also just practicing the major scales at a comfortable pace. So you don't necessarily have to practice the major scales like I did, playing one major scale after another. Perhaps after you feel more comfortable, you can do it that way. In the beginning, you can just play one major scale and then stop, take a break, and then continue on to another major scale. So I've included a PDF down below of the exercise that I did today. So feel free to practice this exercise whenever you want, and hopefully it helps you guys out. Well, that's all guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully it helped you understand the major scales. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe below. I'll talk to you guys later. I send you good vibes, and take it easy. Bye.